Hello, guys. Welcome to Adlet Lessons. Every language has got its own sound system, patterns, grammar, and sentence structures. There are particular rules and principles and orders and types according to which words are arranged and structured. They are devised within sentences and discourses. Every language has got its own word order time. Sometimes these word ordering and structuring are sometimes disputed in the language community among the users. But then every language has got its own word orders, and each word order type is grammatically correct if it is acceptable and appropriate. English language has got its own word order or basic word order types. Word order type it refers to the way words are arranged in a sentence. The standard word order in English is, as you all know, subject plus verb plus object. There are three important elements along with in the slide which I've shown right now. That is subject, verb, object, and something called AMPT. What do you mean by that? Manner, place, time. For example, when you say all the students are requested immediately, that's a manner. Immediately to assemble at the college auditorium. Place at the college auditorium at 10:30 a.m. at 10:30 a.m. time. So just keep in mind this SVOMPT. S for subject, V for verb, O for object, manner, place, time. So this is the order. To determine the better proper sequence of words, you need to understand what the subject, verb, and object are. You need to know that. Subject is typically a noun or a pronoun that the person, place, or thing about which is being referred to within a sentence or a conversation. Verb is in fact the action or state of being, the action of what's happening within that sentence. Object is the word, or they are a group of words influenced by the verb. The sequence of words is critical when communicating in English because it can impact the meaning of what you're trying to say. For example, when I say the chicken crossed the road, okay, you understand? And when I say the road crossed the chicken, you take on two different meanings because the subject and object are inverted. The chicken crossed the road. You make sense out of it. The road crossed the chicken. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. You know that. The same word would be true if the verb was crossed out of order. For example, crossed the road the chicken. Crossed the road the chicken. So here, the same, it's true. The verb is out of order. So this is how word order is operating within a sentence. You can see the basic sentence structure in English. Of course, subject is there. Every sentence is divided into two, subject as well as predicate, and your object, complements, your verbs, adverbs, adjectives, everything, all the other parts of speech come. They appear or they are positioned, they are located within the predicate. All right. Here you can see the simple sentence patterns. He gave his teacher an apple. So you have a subject here, which, you can see the color sequence. Subject. He is a pronoun, of course. Verb, the action, gave. He gave an apple. Okay. And then his teacher. His teacher is there and an apple. So what did he give? So if you ask the question, if you raise the question, what did he give his teacher? Of course, it's an apple. So that's your direct object. And to whom has he given the apple? It's to his teacher. That's your indirect object. So in this pattern, the order of the objects may be switched. He gave an apple to his teacher. You can write that way, or he gave his teacher an apple. Both are right. All right. Now, there are three kinds of objects, so you need to know what a direct object is, an indirect object, an object of a preposition. You have three different examples. Jack caught a fish. Caught is a verb, and Jack is a subject, quite naturally. So, a fish. The thing which is being acted on by the verb. Caught. Caught word. So, Jack made a catch, and what did he catch? It's a fish. So, that is your direct object. Give her the fish. So, her is, of course, somebody else is there. And she is, in fact, the beneficiary of the action who is benefited out of this action and this direct object. That is her. And her is, in fact, the indirect object. Cook without salt. Cooking is an action, of course, it's a verb. Without, of course, it's a preposition. And salt is the object. But, this salt is a noun, sometimes maybe a pronoun. This object or this noun or pronoun is governed by this preposition, who is closely related to salt. It is not cook, the verb, it is without the preposition. That's a reason why you have a third category of preposition, third category of object, as you call it, as an object of a preposition. So just keep in mind these three kinds of object in English grammar. You have a direct object, which is being directly acted on by the verb, and then you have indirect object who takes the advantage or who is benefited off of this action, and that is the indirect object. And sometimes you do have objects very closely related to prepositions, and they are called the object of a preposition. Now, we move on to what we call as phrase. You need to know, what words are, and words are joined and ordered in different types, in different manners, so as to form sentences. Now we need to know what phrases are. What is a phrase? All right. We have different sequences of words. It's critical when communicating in English, of course, and it can impact the meaning of what you are trying to say. So word ordering and sequences of words, it's really critical when you're communicating in English. So you have the building blocks of sentences, and they are in fact phrases and clauses. Look at this. A phrase. What is a phrase? A phrase or phrases, they are groups of words that act as a part of speech, but they cannot stand alone as a sentence. The words in a phrase, they act together so that the phrase itself functions as a single part of speech. For example, you can take a phrase out of this particular sentence which you see right now in front of you. The words in a phrase act together so that the phrase itself functions as a single part of speech. You can take the last part as a single part of speech. What did that mean? Something related to singleness, something related to part of speech, something related to grammar, of course. But do they make meaning out of that? No, they don't make much sense. Something is being talked about grammar or parts of speech or something like that, but then you don't know because there should be something else on which you can add or on which you can stick this particular group of words as a single part of speech. It does have some meaning, but it cannot stand on its own. It cannot stand alone. So it has to be attached or it has to be stuck to something else. You have to attach it to something else. so that it can stand. It cannot stand on its own. Such group of words are called phrases. There are different types of phrases. All right. The first one. Okay, so you have phrases. You have different types of phrases. The first one on the series is a noun phrase. You can see the example when you're listening to what a noun phrase is all about. Please go through the example and the underlined group of words in each sentence. All right. A noun phrase is usually assembled centering a single noun, okay, and works as an object or a subject or a complement in the sentence. Complement means it's a attachment. It's something which compensates or which is added on as an extra, as an add-on. I like to swing the bat hard when I'm at the crease. To swing the bat. It acts or it operates as an object. This noun phrase, to swing the bat, is doing the job of an object in this particular sentence. The next one. Reading novels is a good habit. You see where reading novels occur. Where is the position? Which place do they stand? Stands as an object, subject. It's very clear. Now the next one. The probability of happening that match is not much. Again, the probability of happening that match. This is a group of words, but it can't stand on its own. Again, it functions as a subject. We are sorry for her departure. We have is a compliment, her departure. It's a group of words which talks about somebody leaving, and they are really sorry about that and something sad. But then it cannot give you a complete sense. It cannot give you a complete meaning because it cannot stand on its own. That's the reason why it's called a phrase. It is assembled or it is grouped as a single noun. It works sometimes as a subject, sometimes as an object, or sometimes as a complement in a sentence. You have something called an adjective phrase, which consists of an adjective and it works as a single adjective. It is, of course, a group of words because phrase is a group of words. Alex is a well behaved man. You've got three words well behaved man, but it acts as a single adjective. Why? It describes Alex, the noun. He is a man of friendly nature. Friendly nature of friendly nature, of course. Talks about the man. He. All right. Julie is a woman of gorgeous style. A group of words again of gorgeous style. Stands, it acts or operates as an adjective in the sentence. She leads a very interesting life. Very interesting. Again, this is an adjectival phrase which acts as a single adjective. A lot of people do not sleep at night, as we all are awake these days. We are all awake late at night, right? So a lot of people, a lot of a group of words again. So this is how an adjective phrase works, operates in a sentence. Then comes the adverbial phrase. Of course, it modifies a verb or another adjective and it works as an adverb in the sentence. What does an adverb do? It modifies, it describes, it supports, it accelerates the verb. Or sometimes it modifies, it describes an adjective. The hose runs at a good speed. At a good speed. It's, of course, an adverbial phrase. I was in a hurry then. In a hurry then. It's a group of words. Again, an adverbial phrase. I ran as fast as possible. So this is how adverbial phrase goes on. Now, you have another category called the prepositional phrase where the phrase begins with a preposition. This is where you need to take care. A prepositional phrase is a group of words which begins always with a preposition and it connects nouns. He sacrificed his life for the sake of his country. For the sake of his country. It begins with for. For is a preposition. In the end, we all have to die. Yes, we all have to die. In the end. In the end. He is on the way. Own. Own is a preposition. By walking aimlessly, you will not get success. By. By is again a preposition. And by working aimlessly is a prepositional phrase. In spite of working hard, he was insulted by his boss. All right, in spite of, it's a group of words. It begins with in. Here comes conjunctional phrase. It works as a conjunction. What does a conjunction do? It connects. As soon as you got in, he went out. So here, as soon as you. So there is your conjunctional phrase. It acts as a conjunction. We have to work hard so that we can win the next match. I will attend the ceremony provided that it's connecting. I will attend the ceremony. Something about you attending the ceremony and something, the next idea, something about you coming to the ceremony or not. Two ideas, two thoughts are there. You're going to attend the ceremony and I will attend the ceremony means talking about you are attending the ceremony and um, doubt is there whether you're coming. I mean, you are coming. I will attend the ceremony if you are coming. So two ideas are there. They are connected. Why? Provided that it's a group of words. It's not a single word. It's not a single conjunction. It's a group of words, which means it's a conjunctional phrase. It acts as a single conjunction in the sentence. John started working early in order that he could finish early. So again, conjunctional phrase. The last one in the series, you have an interjunctional phrase. In rejections, you have exclamation, isn't it? What a pleasure, what a pity, oh please, oh wow, it's amazing, wonderful, my goodness gracious, so many things are there. So all these together, they form an interjunctional phrase, which do in fact operate, or does the function of job. It is a good job as that of a single interjection. All right. Now we move on to a bigger kind of constituent, a bigger element, a bigger kind of unit than rather than phrase. Clause. What are clauses? Yes, clauses are groups of words that have a subject and a predicate. Phrases and clauses are the building blocks of sentences. All right. So what's the difference between how does a clause differ from a phrase? Of course, a clause is much bigger than a phrase. Unlike a phrase, a clause consists of a subject and a predicate. It looks more or less like a sentence, a proper, complete sentence. All right, that means it can stand on its own. So, what do you mean by a clause? It's a group of words, it contains a subject and one verb. They are, yes, a group of words which includes a subject and a finite verb. A finite verb, a concrete verb. The subject of a clause can be mentioned or hidden, but the verb must be apparent and distinguishable. This is a point which you need to note. In a clause, the subject sometimes may be mentioned or sometimes it may be hidden, but then the verb is important. A finite verb must be apparent and distinguishable within a clause. Again, you have more descriptions and definitions of a clause. In fact, you can see example. I graduated last year. This is a one clause. It's a sentence, but it's one clause. Why? It has got a subject, it has got a finite verb, graduation or graduated, and it has got a predicate where you have a verb and a complement or an object. There's it. So you can call clauses a complete sentence. When I came here, I saw him. Two clauses are there. When I came here, that's a complete sentence where you have a subject and a predicate. There came is a finite verb. So that's a clause Again, the next one, I saw him. But these two clauses occur in one single sentence. So it's a two-clause sentence. Again, when I came here, I saw him and he greeted me. Of course, definitely three clauses you have because three complete sentences with subject and a finite verb. Quite natural. Now, we need to look at the two major important types of clauses. These are areas which you need to be careful. The first one you call it as the main or the independent clause. From the term, from the name itself, it's very clear to you, it's comprehensible that it can stand on its own. It's a main thing and it can stand on its own independently. The part of the sentence that can stand all alone. So independent clause, it functions on its own to make a meaningful sentence and it looks much like a regular sentence. So in a sentence, two independent clauses that can be connected, That's a case of when you talk about the different kinds of sentences. Now here, um, you have another type of clause which is subordinate to that, which is much dependent. It's a secondary kind of clause, the part of the sentence that cannot stand on its own. For example, you have a single sentence here. Divers often wear wetsuits, which are examples of a basic diving equipment. You can see the double shades there, the green one and the blue one, and you can just connect the color sequence and identify. Of course, divers often wear wetsuits is in fact the main clause or the independent clause because divers often wear wetsuits. Full stop. You can put a period there and you can complete the sentence there. It can stand on its own. But whereas, which are examples of basic diving equipment? It is in fact a clause, but it cannot stand on its own. It do have a subject and a verb. All those things are there. But then it cannot stand on its own. That's why it's called the dependent clause. Okay, you have more definitions here. And yes, independent clause, it looks more or less like a regular sentence, a complete sentence. Sometimes two independent clauses can be connected by coordinators. Who are the coordinators? And, but, so, or, nor, for, yet. All these are conjunctions, the coordinating conjunctions. All right. Examples, you can see examples here for independent clause or main clause where it can stand on its own. He is a wise man. I like him. Can you do it? It's an interrogation, it's a question. Do it, please. Do it, please. It's a complete sentence, it's a regular sentence, it has got an apparent and noticeable verb, do it. The subject is not there, it's an imperative, maybe an order or maybe a request. So do it, please. Okay, so in fact, the subject is hidden, but you do have the verb, so it's an independent clause. I read the whole story. Quite normally, an independent main clause, one clause sentence. I want to buy a phone. There ends, that is in fact one clause. I don't have enough money. So that is another clause. So two independent clauses, they are joined by a coordinator. Who is that? But. I want to buy a phone, but I don't have enough money. So this is how independent clauses occur, and how independent clauses, they occur only maybe one in number within a sentence, maybe two in a sentence, and three independent clauses even in a sentence. But then if more than one independent clauses or main clauses, they occur within a sentence, they are connected by what do you say, coordinators like but, for, or, and, etc. All right. We move on to dependent clause. Have a closer look at it. It cannot function on its own. Why? Because it leaves an idea or thought unfinished. The sense or the meaning is not completed yet. So that's the reason why it's called a subordinate clause. It's an assistance. Dependent clauses, they help independent clauses complete the sentence. Dependent clause cannot alone form a complete sentence. You can see you have more definitions here. You can have a look at it. All right, if you want it. More definitions. You can choose your own, which you are convenient for to learn it. Yes. You can see I have told you that coordinators and subordinators, they are used, to connect sentences, and subordinators, they do the work of connecting the dependent clause to another clause to complete the structure or the sentence structure. In each of the dependent clause, the first word is a subordinator. Sometimes subordinator may be relative pronouns. Sometimes it may be subordinating conjunction. Sometimes they may be noun clause markers. You can see in the examples, and it is more understandable. When I was dating Diana, I had an accident. So which is the main clause here? I had an accident. Okay. So something is being attached to that. When I was dating Diana. So it starts with when, relative pronoun. All right. So demonstratives, they are. They are interrogatives. Yeah, all right. They are interrogatives. When I was dating Diana, that's a relative clause. When I was dating Diana. Why? Because it begins with when. I know the man who stole the watch. I know the man. That's your main clause. Who stole the watch? That's your dependent subordinate clause, which begins with who. That's why I told you it may begin with relative, pronouns. He bought a car which was too expensive. Which is your main clause here? He bought a car. Yes. Which is your dependent clause or subordinate clause? Which was too expensive. And it begins with which. Again, a relative pronoun. I know that he cannot do it. Which is your dependent subordinate clause? That he cannot do it. Yes. And which is your main clause? I know. Yes, I know. It's a sentence. It's a complete sentence. It's an independent clause. It's a main clause where you do have a subject as well as a verb. A noticeable, distinguishable, regular verb. He does not know where he was born. He does not know. It's a complete sentence. It's a main clause, and where he was born, it is in fact your subordinate or dependent clause. So this is it. Yes, phrases and clauses. So these are phrases and clauses. You have seen different phrases, and you have seen the most important two different types of clauses. They are in fact, they form or they serve as they have got a pivotal and phenomenal job within each sentences. They are the building blocks of sentences. And here you can see they are the most important elements of English grammar, because they cover everything a sentence has. Maybe as phrases or maybe as clauses. Clauses, they are center of sentences. And phrases, they strengthen the sentences to become more meaningful. So clauses, they stand like the stem, or it's the main framework of a sentence, because it's independent, because it's main and important, and it's got a subject and verb. It can stand on its own. It gives you the major framework or structure, whereas phrases, they give you more information, they give you more descriptions, and they help the main clause or independent clause to complete the sentence and to give more meanings and interpretation, makes the sentences more meaningful. Now, what's the difference between the phrase and clause? You do know that, of course, but then you need to list it out. Here I have got you some slides where you have the basic difference between a clause and a phrase. What is that? Basically, a clause must have a finite verb and a phrase must not have. So here I have some slides where you do have charts and descriptions and differences where you can see. So one thing you need to keep in mind is that uh, clause should have a finite verb and a phrase should not have, or a phrase need not have, what do you say, a finite verb. But uh, clause should have a finite verb, and a finite verb is, in fact, they are the locus, they are the crux or essence of grammatical information. They are verbs. A finite form is a form of a verb that has a subject and can function as a root of an independent clause. So an independent clause becomes an independent clause, or it's termed as a main clause only if it do have a finite verb. That's why I have highlighted it. You should keep that in your mind, and it can stand alone as a complete sentence. So here you have the differences between phrases and clauses. You can have a closer look at it. Away. Finite verbs, they actually they originally they are finite. They form limited person and the possible person and number of the subject. That's why you call it concrete. They appear in almost all the sentences. Okay, so you can see phrases, they do not contain a subject and a predicate, and clauses, they do contain a subject and a predicate. Phrases, they cannot convey a complete thought, whereas clauses, they cover the complete thought of a sentence. They are like a complete regular sentence. Phrases, they cannot stand alone, and independent clauses, they can stand alone. Here again, it comes, not all clauses can stand alone. Just independent clauses can stand alone, and dependent clauses, they cannot stand on their own. So that's all for regarding your word order, your phrases and clauses. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video lesson.